Hi guys, welcome back to a new video. My name is Mila and you have come to my channel to watch this video about how to travel Europe for cheap. So maybe you want to go traveling in Europe but you're on a tight budget, and we all know that Europe can be quite expensive if you don't keep some things in mind while you're traveling there. Traveling around Europe is a very popular thing to do, and then there are many beautiful places that you can visit in Europe. But there are some things that you need to keep in mind if you want to make your money last for longer if you're on a tight budget. So in this video I will share some tips and tricks on how you can make your money last for longer when traveling through Europe. I will go through transportation, accommodation, food and activities, and then I also share some tips on some places where you maybe don't want to go if you're on a tight budget, and some places where you might want to consider visiting if you are on a low budget. So let's go through the basics first. So Europe is a continent. According to the United Nations, there are today 44 countries that are located in Europe. So that also means that the prices within Europe and the price of living or the cost of living can fluctuate quite a bit within Europe in the different countries. So just to give you some idea and to generalize quite a bit, you could think that the Nordic countries like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland and Iceland are quite expensive. Then affordable countries could include Baltic countries, so Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and also Poland, Hungary, Croatia and these countries. Then in the middle we also have Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal, which are a bit more affordable than the Nordic countries, but not the cheapest countries to visit. And then we just have Switzerland, which don't get me started on Switzerland, because Switzerland is so expensive. It's just expensive. So when you plan on what places you want to visit in Europe and you're planning your route on which you want to follow when you're traveling through Europe, you might want to consider these countries and kind of plan according to how long you want your money to last. So if you're on a tight budget, you might want to consider spending more time in Eastern Europe rather than in Nordic countries, Switzerland and Iceland. So let's move on to other things that can make traveling in Europe for cheaper a bit easier. So let's start off with transportation. I'm not gonna talk about transportation on how to get to Europe, because that depends so much on where you're coming from, or if you already live in Europe, then you know Europe already here, but how to get around Europe for a bit cheaper. So one option is to use the low-cost budget airlines like Ryanair, Wizz Air, EasyJet, Air Baltic, Norwegian. There are quite a lot of these in Europe, and you can compare the prices on Skyscanner or just visit the airline website to see the prices. If you're planning to fly a lot within Europe, I definitely recommend packing light, because a lot of low cost airlines or budget airlines, they charge extra if you want to take a checked-in baggage, and that can really add up in the long run. So definitely only pack a carry-on or even a personal item if possible. Instead of flying, you could also travel around with bus or by train. So for example, Flixbus, which is a European bus company, they offer very cheap rates within Europe between different cities and even different countries. So you could travel for as low as €5 from one city to another. So this is definitely one option to consider if you're on a tight budget. Another option is to purchase a European Interrail pass or train pass, which you can use to travel for multiple days and between different locations, and you just buy this one pass, and with that you can travel between cities and countries using the train. However, it is important that you compare the different rates of these passes and consider how long you're traveling for, and you could also of course combine these options. So once in a while take the low-cost airline, once in a while take the bus, and once in a while take a train. So it's definitely important to kind of compare the different prices and routes and check how long it does take to go from one place to another with these different options. And if you're feeling very adventurous, you can also hitchhike. Hitchhiking is actually legal in Europe, I think in most places, and yeah, it's a free way to travel, but I would definitely suggest being extra cautious if you choose to go this route. So when you're traveling within a city to go from one site to another, then definitely use public transportation, because this will be much cheaper than using taxis, for example. You could also walk, or some cities also offer these city bikes or also these electric scooters that you could rent for a small amount of money to get around very easily. So accommodation is definitely another big expense on any trip. If you want to travel for free, then you should definitely consider couch surfing. I have done it in the past when I was traveling in the United States, and as a student with a very tight budget, it was a great way to travel and also a great way to meet new people. But here as well, you know, use your common sense and be cautious. Many countries in Europe also have a quite good variety of different hostels, so check Hostel World or booking.com to find cheap dorm rooms to stay in. I will say that not all countries have a very big hostel culture, so you know, for example, in Finland it's quite difficult to find any hostels, but in other European cities there can be quite a lot of hostels to choose from. If you're traveling together with someone, it might be also worth checking the bed and breakfast places or guest houses or hotels even, just to check what the prices are, because private rooms in some countries can end up becoming cheaper than taking multiple dorm beds if you're traveling together with someone. So again, I would check on booking.com and even Trivago, which is a website that compares a lot of different like these hotel websites, so there you can find the prices very easily. And also, of course, there's the possibility to stay in Airbnbs, which is also a good option in many European destinations, especially if you're traveling in a larger group or just together with another person. You could also combine transportation and accommodation by renting a van and traveling in Europe. I think this would be a fun way to travel around in Europe, especially during the warmer months from like spring to fall and summer. So yeah, maybe a good option to consider if you're planning to stay a longer time in Europe and you want to have the flexibility to also see those off the beaten path spots, which the van really, like, it just gives you the opportunity to discover more places more flexibly. For renting a van, one website I found is Anywhere Campers, so check out those. This is not sponsored, I just did some research and it was quite hard to find like companies that rent out vans in Europe so that you can travel in many different countries, but definitely do your own research and check which one would suit you the best. So when it comes to food and eating, Europe is definitely not the cheapest place to be honest. But again, here as well, just stick to the cheaper places or cheaper destinations in Europe. For example, Eastern Europe. You can find some pretty good deals in restaurants there. But if you're traveling to more expensive countries like Nordic countries, Switzerland, then yeah, it's gonna be a bit more expensive to eat out. What you can also do is to book an accommodation that has a kitchen, or at least offers included breakfast as a part of your stay to save some money. You can also find pretty good lunch deals in different restaurants in different destinations. So for example, in Poland we ate a 3-course lunch for like 10 euros, but you know, they serve lunch pretty late, so even if you would be out at like 3 or 4 p.m, you could easily find these good deals, and then you don't necessarily need to eat another meal on that day. And if you're traveling during the summers, then a great way to save some money on food is to go and buy some food from the local grocery stores or local markets and have a picnic. That would be a nice way to spend a summer afternoon in a European city. You could also then have some wine and beer, which is definitely cheaper when you buy it from a grocery store rather than a restaurant. So let's move on to activities. So check museums, because sometimes they have a free entrance day or time, so you don't need to pay anything. You can also check out free walking tours, which they have in a lot of the cities in Europe, but definitely make sure to tip, even though it says free walking tour. I mean, it's just a good gesture to tip a bit for your guide. And of course, there are many things that you can do completely for free in many destinations. I'm thinking about like the Berlin Wall in Berlin, Suomenlinna Fortress in Helsinki, Hero Square in Budapest, and Bunkers del Carmel in Barcelona. There's a lot of free things that you can do in many destinations, and you can just walk around. Especially the old towns in many European cities are very beautiful and cozy to just walk around and enjoy the atmosphere. I also want to mention some random tips to make traveling in Europe for cheaper a bit easier. In many places in Europe you can definitely drink the tap water. It's completely safe to drink, so instead of buying bottles of water in the grocery stores, just bring your reusable water bottle and fill it up from the tap. But make sure to check that the water is drinkable from the tap. You could ask a local or just Google, just check before you drink it, but at least in Nordic countries it's safe to drink, and in many other destinations in Europe as well. One just general tip if you want to travel on a budget is to travel off season and be flexible with your time. Especially traveling during summers in Europe can be a bit more expensive, because that's when everybody is traveling in Europe. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. And also be flexible with your time, because that way you can find the best deals on flights, other transportation and accommodation as well. And not all the budget airlines fly on every day, so check which days they are flying to find the best deals. And I already mentioned it, but I will mention it again. Travel light, just pack light, just travel with a carry-on or even a personal item. This makes traveling just more convenient, and if you are flying with a budget airline, it just saves on those checked-in luggage costs. So yeah, that's it guys. I hope you got some help from this video if you're planning a trip to Europe, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!